Public meeting of the West Bend School District and School Board Curriculum Committee. It is 4:30 p.m. on March 11th of 2025, and we will start with introductions. My name is Melanie Ergott, School Board Member.
June Kruger, School Board Member.
Kelly Lang, School Board Member.
Heather Isaacson, Program Administrator.
Kelly Downs, Curriculum Coordinator.
Jen Wimmer, Superintendent.
Erin Faust, Program Administrator.
Tina Van Roo, District Data and Assessment Coordinator.
All right, so the first item up for discussion today is the physical education resources, and that will be presented by Erin Faust.
Thank you. So recently we concluded the program analysis of the physical education program, and as a result, the team requested the introduction of several new course electives at the high school level. Two of those courses, the athletic training and sports officiating course and the sports officiating course, have completed the resource review to find and finalize their primary instructional resource tools. Both of the courses had resources available for public review, both at the library and at the Education Service Center. And during those 2 weeks of public review, there was no public feedback provided on either of the resources. So at the conclusion of this vetting process, we would like to bring these resources forward to the full board for discussion and ultimately adoption in the classroom use. Questions about the resources?
Any questions? Nope.
All right, thank
I
you.
don't have any either, so thank you. All right, the next item up for discussion is math grades 6 through 12 resource review final selection, and that will be presented by Kelly Downs.
Okay. Well, I'm super excited to be back with you tonight. We have some great news for you. Thank you for having me. If you remember the last time I was here, we talked about our goal of ensuring that our primary curriculum resources provided all students and teachers the opportunity to achieve at high levels. Arrow keys still aren't working. So last time I showed you where we were in this progression from the program analysis. And if you remember, our last one was right now investigating potential new math resources for grades 6 through 12. I explained this screening process last time, that we started with Ed Reports, which is a clearinghouse that does a very thorough job of vetting materials. Their whole purpose is to be able to identify high quality instructional materials for schools to use. So we started there, which gave us quite a few options. From there, our team looked at the indicators that they use on their rubrics and decided, like, these are key ones for us that we need to have perfect scores in. That got us down to those 8 middle school options and the 4 high school options. And then finally, our team looked at the narratives and created a rubric, also our lesson elements, and things that were important to us as a district, and created a rubric from there. That brought us down to our 8 choices that we had for middle school and the 4 for the high school. We also determined through that process that we did need to move on from CPM for a variety of reasons. One, that we needed something that would better support our instructional vision and our teachers in delivering instruction. We also needed something that was more aligned to Wisconsin standards and practices. On Ed Reports, our middle school didn't rate high enough on focus and rigor. And finally, we needed something that would improve our student achievement. So this is what's the timeline that we looked at. We did our resource review kickoff, we developed rubrics, we did our evaluations, and what I'm here to report on today is this section on visits. We did some school visits, we had vendors present, and our larger math staff got time to review the materials. So our vendor presentations took place on our Professional Development Day on February 17th. Our high school was able to experience a vendor from Open Up Resources. The middle school did Curriculum Associates iReady, and all of them experienced both Imagine Learning and Kendall Hunt's Illustrative Math. If you remember, illustrative math is an open resource. It was developed by Bill McCallum, who was one of the, in partnership with others, he was one of the ones who helped develop the standards. And he felt strongly that he wanted all districts to have access to high quality resources. So when they developed this in conjunction with the standards, he made it an open resource so that anybody could pick it up. Since then, different vendors have picked up this resource and done different platform things with it. So our team wasn't sure where they wanted to go, so we had both high school and middle school attend both of illustrative math. All the materials were made available at that time, but we also put them in the building so that the larger math staff could take a deeper look. We gave them a survey so that they could communicate with us, like, this is what we're liking, this is what we're not liking, from both the vendor presentations and their time in the resources. So, our site visits, we were able to go to Beaver Dam Middle School, had been using iReady. Illustrative math, we went to Richfield Middle School. For the high school side, we saw Pewaukee High School, and also for illustrative, we went to Hartford Union. All of these visits included being in the classroom, spending some time seeing it in person, debriefing with the teachers that we met with, as well as some specialists and administrators. And then we spent time together as a team, compiling what we saw and kind of debriefing ourselves. So we were able to finally narrow it to a recommendation. And what the teams have come up with is illustrative math across the board. So it will be illustrative 6 through 12. However, you may notice we have both Imagine Learning and Kendall Hunt up there. So let me show you first the rationale for illustrative, and then I'll talk to you a little bit about why the two platforms. Illustrative math, and this was some of the notes that came from all of our debriefs. It's a brief summary. The main thing, the conceptual understanding in illustrative math is developed in such a beautiful way. It really just, they bring kids to a deep understanding. The student engagement, they have many, many math routines, and over time, that was one thing that really stood out to us in one of the districts, is that over time, the amount of mathematical vocabulary and engagement and understanding the students showed because of those routines that had been developed over the years was quite high. The alignment with the standards, obviously when it's in part written by one of the creators of the standards, it's very, very aligned, and it also reflected those lesson elements our teachers have been working with. They loved the supports. Our ELL teacher was really impressed with the language routines. We also have Desmos activities, extra practice sheets that were all involved. The spiral review and the homework was really important to the teachers so that kids don't, like when we had math, you learned addition, and then you came back to that much later, and we went on to subtraction. It was continually woven into the program. There is a coherence, that seamless transition from middle school to high school. That was important to this team. They felt like that would really support our high school if we started it in middle school. And then again, the differentiated supports for all levels of learners so that we could really differentiate appropriately. So why the two platforms? 1 second. Okay. So as you can see, in the middle is illustrative math. Again, it is the same program, like the same problems throughout, okay? But our middle school teachers felt very strongly about the digital platform that was offered through Imagine Learning. They really liked the formative assessments, the targeted practice, the extra things that came with it, the cool downs for data tracking, and they just felt like at their level they really needed that, and that they could really differentiate more appropriately at their level. The high school teachers, however, were very concerned about the ability to do higher level complex equations and editing within that platform, so they felt strongly that they wanted Kendall Hunt. So that's why we have the two suggestions. Again, it's illustrative math all the way through. It's just a different way that the teachers would interact with it. So this is where we are in the timeline. So obviously presenting to you right now. And then we hope to go to the public viewing by 3:31 if you give us that okay. And then it would go back to you for the final recommendation to move to the board for discussion. and then we'd bring it through the rest of those channels. And I want to just give a huge shout out to this team. The amount of hours they put in, the dedication they showed, the passion that they showed at times. I mean, we literally, we had laughing, we had tears, we had everything in this process. They were very, very dedicated, and I'm so impressed by their focus on doing what was best for the kids of West Bend and really looking at student learning throughout the whole thing. Very impressive team.
And speaking of that team, you know, should we kind of get it through that process, which we're hopeful for, we would have that team be present with the full board to engage in talking about kind of the story. I know that you're representing them. We're trying to protect their time. They spent it was a very late night in their final meeting night in reaching consensus and doing this work. So that's why we haven't had team representation here. They're allowing Kelly to represent them, and she's doing so beautifully. But then we would include them in that full board process so that you can see and hear firsthand from them as well. But
Also within our next steps would be that implementation planning. The team members have already taken it back to their grade level teams to get input from the larger staff as a whole, like what do you feel you really need as we create this implementation plan. Once it's created, it will go back out to them for feedback, input, all of that, and we'll make adjustments from there. So again, the goal was to ensure our primary resource provided all students and teachers with this opportunity to achieve at high levels, and our team really believes that this resource will provide that for us. Do you have any questions or thoughts?
I just want to say, I think it's really great that you could go out to different schools and kind of see it in use there. I think that's probably really helpful. And I understand, why the different age groups would maybe pick a different platform, because one might appeal more to the other, so. But I have no problem letting this go forward for viewing personally, so.
I would agree, and thank you to everybody on this list too. I know this is a huge group, and not only having them go out, but that's a lot of time for a lot of people too. So I appreciate the wealth of knowledge behind all of these people and you organizing all of that.
I also want to give a shout out, on that list was Kurt Marquardt and Sarah Brown. Sarah Brown is our consultant from Math Insights, and they helped me also do the facilitation of this group.
Thank you. I just have one question on the dual platforms. So one question that I know will come up is the cost. Is it going to be double the cost, or is it in line because it's the same math program but just on the different platform? So just curious how that would play into how we would, I get an overall cost perspective, yeah.
It's a great question. IL, we have to pay for that platform. Kendall Hunt is free. So it ended up to be paying for one, which is why we also felt it might be a possibility to do the two platforms that they really wanted. Does that make sense? Okay. Well, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
So we'll make sure and promote with families. We talked about that timeline. Kelly's making sure that we've got full resources. There were some pieces for full viewing. And then in looking at that timeline with spring break, that's why we're targeting kind of after break. People's minds aren't maybe there, so we'll start promoting. And then Ashley will help coordinate it, having that both here and at the public library for a couple weeks of viewing and input. And Nancy will promote that in our district news. So that's kind of the why on that timeline piece.
Great. Thank you. All right, so then the next item up for discussion today is the curriculum renewal cycle and process, and this will be presented by Dr. Jen Wimmer.
So I just wanted to talk with the committee around kind of where we are, what we're working on and prioritizing as a team. So as you know, the facilities work and that passage of that referendum is going to bring about some large-scale changes. Fifth grade will go back to elementary in just a little over a year's time. Then we'll be bringing up a 6-8 comprehensive middle school. So you heard from Heather Isaacson last time where she's bringing along fifth grade and reviewing the CKLA. So we have a whole program. It really led our team, primarily Aaron and Heather and Kelly, in looking at the curriculum cycle. So you're accustomed to seeing a 7-year cycle and kind of systematic approach to different curricular reviews and pieces, and they keep coming back to you. We are taking a short and long-term look so that we're in attention to the next 3 years' time. So what do we have to line up? How is music going to shift with, the difference in 5th grade where there were instruments, and what's that look like in elementary? So we're working with all these teams in those conversations. So we're going to fold that work into that curriculum matrix. So what you'll see from us at a next meeting is kind of that overview. We're running that through our leaders right now. So making sure, like if I'm an elementary teacher, I don't want that workload to be that they're changing curriculums every single year for the next year. I'm also in attention to that physical transition where I'm gonna changing schools, changing grade level, what can I take on? So I just wanted you to know that we're re-looking at that, and we'll bring that forward with kind of what's the next 3 years look as a priority that is vetted by, principals are looking at it right now. We'll actually send it out to all staff so they can find themselves and kind of bring any questions and feedback they have to us prior to us kind of setting that for you to review. But you'll see it, like I said, it'll be kind of one chart, but it's kind of that short run of the next 3 years in readiness, and then that longer term view. So you see us working on that. And then, knowing that we've got a little bit of a short run, we're revisiting our policy language is grounded in that 300 series, and that oversees how we go about curriculum cycles, resource selections, all those pieces. We're looking to clean up some of those companion documents that go with it, still adhering to policy and all the expectations of public viewing and all of those things, but just tightening up the directions of that for people, since we're going to have some compacted work and then some expanded work. So those are pieces we're working through right now. Again, we're going to get those through some feedback loops outside of our team, and then we'll bring it back to the committee to take a look at too. Any questions about that, or kind of the why or how we're going about that? Yeah, it's a big shift, and just a lot of time and attention so that we're being cognizant of how much change can be processed in a productive manner on behalf of people, and making sure that they're ready so that when we do switch over, they have the pieces that they need, whether it's the resource, the curriculum, the instructional practices, that they have readiness. So just working hard to develop that plan. So I just wanted to make you aware of that and how we're going about it and what's coming next for you. Mm-hmm.
All right, well, thank you for your presentation. It looks like we've reached the end of our planned agenda. So if there are no further questions or comments, I will go ahead and close the meeting. All right, thank you, everybody.